there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my BookTube channel. So it has been a hot minute since I have posted a video, but I've had a lot of extra time on my hands lately. I'm a teacher, if you didn't know, and right now I'm on summer vacation, so I thought it would be a good time to kind of catch up on my BookTube channel. So today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. This is a tag that I've been seeing going around, and I've had a lot of fun watching the videos, and I wanted to do it myself. So it is a list of questions, and let's just get started. So the first question is the best book that you have read in 2019, and this was really hard for me to narrow down just to one book, but I'm going to go with Hunted by Megan Spooner. This is a YA Beauty and the Beast retelling. The reason that I like this book so much as compared to other Beauty and the Beast retellings is that it really focuses on Eva, our main character, or Beauty, her journey of self-discovery, so it's not so much focused on the romance. And there's a big theme of wanderlust in this book, which really resonated with me. And I also like that it is very, very slow burn. Absolutely love this book. Question 2 is the best sequel that you have read this year in 2019. I'm going to go with The Sweet Far Thing by Libba Bray. This is the third and final book in the Great and Terrible Beauty series. This is a YA fantasy, and it follows our main character, Gemma, who was born and raised in India, but then she's English and she goes back home to London to this elite boarding school, and she finds out that she is actually a descendant of this ancient order that keeps magic at bay in this separate realm. And the reason I like this book so much, well, first off, is because of the setting. I absolutely love anything that takes place in Victorian London, so if it takes place during that time period, that's a plus for me. And also, I just thought that Gemma and the other main characters had such a dynamic growth from the first book to this book. And also, her love interest, Kartik, I absolutely adored him, and his part in the final book just ripped my heart out. It was so good. This is probably one of the best series finales that I've read in a really long time. Question number 3 is a new release that you have not read yet, and for that I'm going to go with Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is an adult sci-fi thriller, and by the time this video goes up I might be reading it, but it follows two timelines, 2007 and 2018, and it follows the scientist who is trying to map memories, and then in 2018 it follows this detective who is investigating all of these cases of people who saying they are having these false memories. So I've heard that it is a very, very interesting book. It speaks to a lot of ethical dilemma and it really makes you think. So I am very excited to delve into this one. The next question is your most anticipated release for the second half of 2019. For that, I'm going to have to go with The Burning White by Brent Weeks. This is the 5th and I think final book of his Lightbringer series. I'm currently in the middle of reading book 3 and I am absolutely loving this series. I love the world, I love the magic system. With every subsequent book that I read, these characters just become so much more dynamic and fleshed out and real and enjoyable to read about. I'm just very excited to get through this series and see what happens to all of our characters. All right, the next question is the biggest disappointment of 2019, and for this I'm going to have to go with The Light Over London by Julia Kelly. This is an adult historical fiction, and this was the first book that I read in 2019, and I ended up giving it 1 star, and I was so upset because number 1, the premise of this book sounded like something I would really like, and number 2, I thought it was foreshadowing what my reading year was going to be like, so I was just not happy. But this book follows 2 characters in 2 different timelines. It follows Kara during present day, who works kind of discovering old artifacts, and it follows Louise, who becomes an anti-aircraft gunner in London during the London bombings. So first off, I wanted to read this book because my grandmother served in World War II, and during that time women weren't really as prominent in the military as they are today, so I was really excited to read it. But I think Julia Kelly is a romance author, and there was just way too much romance in this book, and it just didn't sustain the plot. There was a romance with both characters. The timelines of both characters didn't coalesce into one cohesive story. Louise's love interest, Paul, there was a twist with him that I saw from the beginning, and Louise was pitched to be this really, really smart, mathy kind of girl, and she just made every single foolish decision that you could ever make as a female, honestly. And I thought she was an idiot. So I just felt like the two timelines didn't work together and the main characters were just not well written, and there was way too much romance and not enough of the history, which is what I thought the book was going to be about and was the whole reason that I picked it up. This one I did receive an advanced reader copy of, and I have already unhauled it. Next question is going to be your biggest surprise read of 2019, and for that I'm going to have to go with Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. So this book I was actually not even planning on reading because I am not caught up on any of Sanderson's other series, works, etc. But I was in the used bookstore that I frequent, Second and Charles. I think I've talked about it on my channel before. They sell not just used books, they sell new books, clothing, toys, music, everything. So I was in there one day and browsing the used book section, and my husband comes up to me and says, hey, well, my husband's not a reader, but he's like, hey, you like Brandon Sanderson, don't you? I said, yeah. He goes, I found this. I said, oh, is it new? He goes, no, it's used. It's like, let me see, it's $5.25. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to get it if it's only $5. And he goes, oh, and it's signed. I was like, are you kidding? So I got a signed, if I can get there, I got a, let me see if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, a signed edition of Skyward. There are 4,000 signed editions. I got edition 204, so a signed edition of Skyward for $5.25 at Second and Charles. So I was not planning on reading this, but I could not pass that up. So I got it and I took it home and I started reading it that same day, and I could not put it down. So Skyward follows our main character Spensa, and she lives on this alien planet where humans crashed several centuries ago, and her father was a pilot who was fighting these aliens that come and attack them very frequently. He has been labeled a coward because during one of those fights with the aliens, he fled and was never seen again. So Spensa has worked all her life to become a pilot to kind of help clear her father's name. Did really enjoy this book. I liked reading about Spensa's journey. I enjoyed the world. The twist at the end I thought was really interesting, and I'm really excited to see where Sanderson goes with the rest of the series. The next question is your new favorite author, and for that I'm going to choose Adrienne Young. So Adrienne Young wrote Sky in the Deep and The Girl the Sea Gave Back. And this book, this is an advanced reader copy that I got, and I didn't realize that it was a companion novel to Sky in the Deep. So I got Sky in the Deep from the library, and I enjoyed it so freaking much that I went and bought a copy off of Book Outlet. So these two books are inspired by Nordic culture, although I think the world that it takes place in is fantastical, and there's a small smidget of magic in these books, not enough to call them fantasy. But the reason that I liked Adrienne Young so much is that she is really good at using very few words to pack a lot of punch and emotion. I felt like I got to know the main characters in both of these works so well, and I was so invested in their stories that I could feel what they were feeling. And they're very, very quick reads, but they leave a lasting impression. So I definitely want to read more about Adrienne Young. If she decides to write something not in this universe, I will definitely pick it up. The next question is your newest fictional crush. Will Herondale. That's all I'm saying. Next question, what is your newest fictional character? I'm going to have to go with Alucard, I think that's how you say his name, from A Gathering of Shadows. This is the second book in the Darker Shade of Magic series by Victoria Schwab. I really enjoyed Alucard. I thought he was very mysterious. He has some inner demons. There's a lot we don't know about him. I think he's a lot deeper than he lets on at the beginning of the book. I liked his interactions with Delilah, and I liked how Kel absolutely hated him. So I know that he is in the next book, so I'm really excited to see more page time from him. This question is a book that made you cry. So I don't really ever cry with books. I will tear up and get emotional, but I've never actually had a full-on sob attack from reading a book. But for this, I'm going to go with Mem by Bethany C. Morrow. This is a adult kind of speculative fiction, sci-fi, historical reimagining, where it takes place, I want to say, in like the 1930s in Canada, and during this time, a scientist has figured out how to extract memories from people and turn them into organic living things that have no real consciousness of their own. All they do is relive the same memory over and over and over. And our main character, which is, I think, Dolores Extract 1 or something like that. Her name's Dolores. She is the first ever extracted memory that can make her own memories and functions as a living being. So it was a very philosophical novel. It was really, really short. I listened to it on audio. It was only about 6 hours long. It's the only format my library had it in. And I was driving to work, and there was this quote towards the end of the book that says, "I am more than a memory, I am an epiphany." And I heard that quote and I was like tearing up as I was driving. It was a very impactful and very interesting take on memories and how they make us who we are as human beings. All right, the next question is the book that made me happy. That one I'm going to go with Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the first book that I've actually read from the both of them. I have not read the Illuminae Files, and I was not expecting to like this book so much. The only way I can describe it is Guardians of the Galaxy and kind of like X-Men. It takes place in a futuristic world where we follow Aurora, who was cryogenically frozen and put on this ship to go to this new world. And she wakes up, I think, several centuries, maybe even millennia later in this new world, and finds that where she was meant to be going never existed. And I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the space adventure. I absolutely loved the humor. There were times where I just laughed out loud with this book. The characters were really, really well done. They interacted really well with each other. There were some very cliche things about this book, and the reveal at the end was nothing really new, but it was still a lot of fun to read, and I cannot wait to read the rest of this series when it comes out. And the last question is the most beautiful book that you bought or received so far this year. And for that, I'm going with The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgkins Burnett. So this book, I had the pleasure of going to New Zealand for 2 weeks, and I saw this copy in a bookstore in New Zealand, and I wanted to bring back a book from my trip, so I decided to get The Secret Garden. I think it's, let me see, glare, sorry. I thought it was really cute, and this is a book that I wanted to read for the longest time, so now I can. Alright guys, so that is it for my mid-year freak out tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you think of them. I'll see you again soon. Bye.